What's up, gamers? Aaron Shack here, and we are live with Shackcast number 75. We have a number of things that we want to talk about today, and I'm very excited to be live for this one. We are going to talk about the Xbox Game Pass price hike. The Assassin's Creed Reconstruction era game has been canceled, and we have a bit more. I think one of the other things is Destiny 2's Portal is a bit of a cause for concern for some gamers, and of course we'd always like to hear your input, so we will be addressing comments and stuff like that, so let me know. But first, let's sort of dive into what's going on with Xbox Game Pass and, how people are reacting. So I'm going to pull up the page here, and we have, subscribers can play hundreds of games on PC, Xbox, and more devices with cloud gaming. Plans start at $9.99 a month. So full transparency, I've been an Xbox PC Game Pass partner at times, which means there have been brief spurts where they've given me access to PC Game Pass for like a month, and then they would renew every so often. And all I would have to do would be just like highlight a variety of games. They'd be like, yeah, just play different PC games on Game Pass, which I had mutual interest in because I was like, okay, I enjoy this, and I would just bookmark all these games that I, wouldn't normally have access to or wouldn't normally play, or felt like, okay, maybe 60, 70 bucks is a little too much for this game, so Game Pass gives me an ability to check it out. So, full disclosure, that's happened. I'm not currently on any sort of program with them, but nevertheless, it doesn't alter my opinion. I think Xbox, as well as myself, would want honesty. And most brands that I've worked with they respect your honesty more than they want like absolute loyalty or for you to like read from a script. But that's not always the case. There are definitely some brands, there's some horror stories out there where some brands have cut people off for having an opinion that is different from what they would like or what they believe the mainstream community should say. Plans starting at $9.99 a month. Full disclosure, I am currently paying for the $9.99 plan because that just gives me base access to online features, which is really all I care about. I play my Xbox every now and then. It's not a huge deal, but I used to be a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber. There was a time where I felt having access to all these games, both on my console and PC, was a really good idea. But that was back when it was like $14, and then it went up to 15, and then 16, and then 17, and then 20. Like it sort of slowly kept going up, and it was like, okay, well, the value is still there, but like for me, I can't afford to do that. Not on top of like Netflix, HBO, Amazon, Hulu, Disney, which now Hulu and Disney are going to combine. Paying my yearly PlayStation, my yearly Nintendo, stuff like that. Sort of okay with the price hike, says Mr. Grimmy, for Ultimate only because Ubisoft Plus is now included with it, and not just EA Play. Yeah, I still don't think that's enough value for the price. I still think it's too much. But that's something you have to evaluate on a case-by-case basis. Like, for example, I own most Ubisoft games I would want to play. So there's no value proposition in me having a membership to play some of their games. And same with EA. So that's why eventually I sort of cut off at that point. I was like, okay, I probably don't need this anymore, and I just gonna keep the online in case I want to play Halo with the guys or whatever game it may be. Because there have been times where I was like, okay, what is like the minimum here? And there have been times where I was like, I just wanted access to play Halo Wars for a little bit online with a friend and not really have to, worry about other stuff. Okay, but anyway, I'm getting off the rails. I wanted Assassin's Creed 3, and I only own the Ezio collection on PS3. Yeah, like, it's a case-by-case basis. Like, for you, maybe the value proposition is there, but are you willing to pay $30 a month for 2 or 3 years so that you can keep playing the Assassin's Creed games? Or by that point, would you rather just have bought the games and saved yourself like $200 or $300 of monthly resubbing and never owning your games? That's another consideration. Now, the other big thing is that Ultimate and PC subscribers can play new games. So this is the other thing. They're gating. This has always been one of the key values of being on Game Pass. It was like, hey, every Xbox game was day one drop on Game Pass. So it meant like, oh, if you're like, I don't know how I feel about the new Call of Duty, or I don't know how I feel about this new indie game, or how do I feel about Outer Worlds? I don't know. I never played it. Like, that could be your opinions. I've played Outer World, but I do believe Game Pass was an opportunity for me to originally play the first Outer Worlds game without having to buy it, because I was like, I don't know. I don't really. Sometimes I flake on RPGs. Like, I'll play them for a while and really enjoy them, and then some other game will come out, or I'll just get like burned out on things. So, I mean, these are real things that can definitely happen. Of course, the ability to play on whatever device, Xbox is definitely going into the mobile market with some of these portable consoles, and then also the cloud stuff where, there's just an app on your TV, and you just sync a controller to your smart TV. You got PCs, you got VR stuff. You can do cloud gaming on your phone, on a web browser. And then, of course, the consoles are there. But, I mean, it just feels like they're trying to step away from physical media and hardware. And there's a lot of rumors online about Xbox just completely leaving the hardware market and just being Game Pass. There hasn't been anything substantial on that. That's mostly just rumor mongers. And I'm not going to participate or dance in that field until we get some facts. So, other things is Fortnite Crew. This is some sort of, I'm not really familiar, but this is some sort of membership service for Fortnite where you get the Battle Pass, 1,000 V-Bucks a month. And so that might be a good proposition if you're a Fortnite gamer. And, of course, you get access to EA stuff on Ultimate. And then you get Ubisoft Plus Classics. Now, keep in mind, this is not everything. It's just 50-plus iconic games from memorable franchises. So I still feel like there's always like a fine print where it's like, okay, we're giving you this, but like asterisk, not everything, or asterisk, only for a limited time. So yeah, stream and play anywhere. And this is on all the plans, Ultimate, Premium, Essential. So the core plan, which was originally $9.99, which is the plan I'm on, is now called the Essential plan. So they're definitely playing with psychology by renaming some of the plans. They're saying, "Ooh, this is Essential." So yeah, you just start playing. Yeah, there's a lot of collabs where you get like in-game skins or whatever. You earn rewards, of course. You get discounts. If you are a Game Pass subscriber and you decide to like buy a game that's on Game Pass, a lot of times it'll be like, hey, this game's 20% off if you buy it while you're subscribed to Game Pass. So there's even still a little bit of incentive to own said games. Yeah, then of course multiplayer gaming is there, deals and discounts, right? So what we're looking at is nothing has really changed substantially for Essential and Premium, which are $9.99, $14.99. Of course, this adjusts based on what country you're in, what the exchange rates are. But with Ultimate, it is now a 50% increase of $30 a month. Now, it's up to you to sort of wager, is EA Play, Ubisoft, is Fortnite Crew, are you a Fortnite gamer? And I think the other big thing is like, oh yeah, this is also a thing. So you get benefits for League and Call of Duty Warzone, but Call of Duty games are only guaranteed day one on Ultimate. So all the people that are unsubscribing and saying, oh, well, I'm just going to buy Ultimate on, or I'm just going to buy Call of Duty physically, or I'm just going to buy it, so I can own it for $70. Xbox wins either way because they own Call of Duty and they own Game Pass. So either you can pay $30 a month to play the new Call of Duty, or you can just buy the new Call of Duty and give them money anyway. So like your boycott options are really kind of thin. It's like, okay, am I willing to just not play Call of Duty? And we also have to note the Xbox Game Pass website crashed because for several hours, the day they announced this, for several hours it crashed because of how many people were there canceling memberships entirely. So, I mean, you're causing irreparable damage to the brand. Now, we're also going to get into, hey, prices have to go up, inflation, profitability. If you were a major company, you would have to make these moves eventually. I mean, do you want them to just keep laying off more and more developers and closing more studios and blah, 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 right? So, yeah, there's that. And PlayStation does this too, and I don't really care to go back and forth because both services have their pluses and minuses. So we're not gonna dog on Xbox just to like uplift PlayStation or vice versa. I still believed for the longest time that Xbox Game Pass has infinitely more value than what PlayStation's Mimic service does. It's good and it's getting better, but at the end of the day, it's still not quite as accessible to the full library in the way that Xbox has backwards compatibility. It has like automatic enhancements to older games that will run at 60 FPS, 120 FPS, or get resolution boosts, or all of a sudden have cloud saves and cloud gaming and stuff like that. Like PlayStation just doesn't compete on that level. But, competition, this rivalry incentivizes, brands to sort of try to keep up with each other. Okay, so that's really the bottom of the page. The PC only plan, we might pull this up briefly. Oh, there it is. Okay. So PC only, about $17 a month. Hundreds of PC games, kind of vague because it's not quite everything. New games on day one, new Xbox published games and third-party games. Rewards, Call of Duty and League of Legends, includes EA Play but not Ubisoft. The way I see it, just buy the games you're interested in. So if we look at some of the games with Essential, just to give you an idea, these are some of the games that are included for $9.99 a month, Essential. So Arkham Knight's dope, Control is dope, Hades, Warzone's on there, City Skylines is pretty neat, Dead Cells is cool, Deep Rock Galactic, DayZ. These are all games that you could sink a lot of hours into, or like infinite hours into, in some cases, with the live service titles. Doom, Dishonored, we played and listed a bit on the channel. That was kind of fun. Firewatch is incredible. Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Gears 5, Halo Wars 2, Halo 5. There's about 3 pages. So Payday 2, Infinite Value, Stardew Valley, Infinite Value, Spiritfarer, Shredder's Revenge, Tunic. Unpacking was fun. Yeah, Valorant's on here. Darktide. I mean, there's a lot of replay value there. That's practically live service. Now for premium, you see there's more games for Ultimate. Okay, it's sorted by most popular. With Ultimate, if we go all games, okay, it's like 840. And it's really up to you to like scroll through these lists and be like, okay, are these games that I'm super hyped for? Are these games I'd rather own, or are these games that I would just, hey, I'm curious about Control. Here's $9 a month or $30 a month, so I can play the newest Call of Duty. But like, I just want to run the campaign. I don't really, or I just want to play multiplayer in the first season where everything's hip. You know, that's up to you. So I mean, really, at the end of the day, that's where it kind of lands. But I want to pull up some tweets. I really respect both Danny and Parris. They are the hosts of Gamertag Radio. I always believe that they have like solid, calm, rational takes on things, and they've been with Xbox since it started. They've been covering it. So he says Xbox Game Pass adding more games, more options for subscribers, and Fortnite Crew is great value. But the $30 a month price hike might be tough for many gamers. So I did include this in the thumbnail. This is part of their like tone deaf video that they did, where they were like, you know, doing the PR thing where they're like, oh, we, you know, look at all the cool things that we're bringing to Game Pass. Wow, you know? And then they get to the price hike and they're like, but we're giving you so much value, you won't care about that, about the 50% price hike. Like, that's pretty insane. Like, if Netflix did that, how much is Netflix? Like $15 now? Maybe more? If they just all of a sudden jumped up to $30 and said, "Oh well, hey, we're gonna do a new season of Halo. We're gonna do a new season of Haunting of Bly Manor. You know, like whatever. Like, pick your favorite show." And they were just like, "Yeah, we're just gonna do a few of these shows, but like also." We're going to lock off certain content and be like, oh, you can't watch this. You know, and Netflix already does that. They already have padlocks on certain shows that if you don't have a high enough tier subscription. So we're back where we were with TV. Where like HBO and Starz and Cinemax and all these things were like, they would be static on your TV if you didn't pay the money. And, you know, certain channels just weren't available, and we were watching tons of ads and paying a lot of money for bundles of cable TV channels that, you know, we don't watch everything. We don't support every channel. So we thought that streaming would be a way to cut the cable and sort of be able to watch what we want whenever we want without ads. That's why we're paying for the service, is so that you don't have to run ads, but then corporations get greedy and things get hiked. And here, you know, a lot of people are probably flying off the handle and saying like, oh, it's corporate greed, and maybe it is to some extent. And maybe part of it is, you know, you buy Activision Blizzard for, you know, $1 billion, like, you have to find a way to make your money back in a way. And, you know, you've canceled Perfect Dark. You know, Call of Duty is kind of doing same old every year. Hard to say. So with Parris, he says $30 per month defeats the appeal for Xbox Game Pass, which was always day and date releases. At that price, most cannot afford the service. And even if you can, are you playing enough games to make it worth it? So that's the other thing. If you're just using it to play like indie games that are like anywhere from $1 to $10 on Steam, if you do the math, you might be like, hey, I don't really see the value in paying $30 a month for 12 months. You know, even a whole year compared to how much you indie game, or maybe you only buy a few games a year. You get Call of Duty, you get FIFA, you know, you get Battlefield, whatever. But if you're like me and you're trying to cover a lot of games, you have a lot of broad interests, you could determine that maybe Game Pass saves you some money, or maybe you should say, like, in the long run, at least I'll own these games. I'm paying a little more up front, but I'm also just going to own these games. So he says some will downgrade to a lower tier, but many will cancel the service and be more selective on their gaming purchases at $70 plus for AAA games, which is very true because, that means collector's editions are 80, 100, 120, 200, 300, and more, depending on what's in it. Statues, battle passes, season passes, collector's edition content, statues, toys, whatever. And I think Parris also says, never judge another person's financial situation when you have no idea what someone can afford. So I don't really care about the comments there, but I think both Danny and Parris bring up a calm and rational take, which is, for some people, an extra amount a month is no big deal. Some people are saying, oh, it's just the price of an extra cup of coffee or dinner out, whatever. I don't really see it that way. I think, and also, I think the other big thing that people say in defense of this move is that, well, gaming is a luxury. What is a luxury, everyone? What do you think of when you think of luxury? Do you think of video games? Like, when I think of luxury, I think fast exotic cars. I think pearls and diamonds and gold, and it's a state of great comfort and extravagant living. If we look at Oxford Dictionary, that's what luxury is. So, are video games a luxury service? Consoles are, anywhere between $300 and $600 plus dollars. Gaming PCs are $1,000 or more. Graphics cards alone can cost $1,000 or $2,000 or more. The floor for gaming has always been achievable by people of any socioeconomic status. Whether you were poor, some of your households might have a Nintendo growing up. Whether it was your parents bought one or they got one for you as a kid. Prices are definitely higher than they've ever been, factoring in inflation and just the industry being what it is. Like, this is the only generation, to my knowledge, where instead of consoles getting cheaper, Xbox and PlayStation increased their prices. Now, part of that is in response to Trump's tariffs, but we can't blame it all entirely on that. It's everybody trying to squeeze every last dime, and everything you do is going to subscription services, Every single business out there is trying to have a subscription service nowadays because it's guaranteed money in your pocket every month. Whereas if you buy something once and forget about it, you make a game, someone buys it, that's it. You can't make more money off that person. But if there is incentive to keep buying, or if there's a battle pass, or if it's like, World of Warcraft where there's a monthly fee to even play. So, there it is. So, is gaming a luxury? Well, do we factor a luxury? Because think about it. You shouldn't be buying video games or whatever if you can't meet your needs. What are your needs? Water, food, shelter, a job, all these things. You can't even buy games if you're dead. Or if you're unhealthy, you can't play games. If you don't have enough sustenance, if you're not hydrated. So in the list of priorities, it's like, you and your mental health and your personal health, your physical health, your family, your friends, all these things, and your job. And then in your spare time, there is gaming. But that does not make gaming a luxury. So I disagree. Just because on the priority list, it's at the entertainment status, which always, anytime there's financial trouble, right, we cut our entertainment budget. We go, okay, do I really need all these streaming services? Are we really watching Netflix all that much? You know, am I gonna sell the PlayStation because we're not playing it as much or whatever like that? And it's the same with schools. It's like what do they cut first? Not sports. They cut music and the arts. When the budgets are getting slim, they're like, do we really need that music teacher? Do we really need the art class? No, we need to focus on like math and reading and football. So being alive is a luxury. I believe it's more of a right, maybe. Somewhere in that muddy water is that we have rights to food and hydration and all these, pursue happiness, all this other stuff. All the happy-go-lucky American values. But I still wouldn't say that gaming is a luxury item, even though now it's more expensive than ever to get into. Like most households, most of your friends that you might know that are, even if they're just casual gamers, most people will be like, yeah, I got an Xbox and I got FIFA and I buy FIFA every year. Like, it could be that. So it's not really a luxury so much as it is a hobby. So I don't believe there's justification for the price hikes. I think it comes down to individual value. Some of you will say, hey, this is great. Or maybe you do the thing where you subscribe to Game Pass for a month and you play the hell out of games. Or you take a free trial or one of their things where you get like 3 months for $1 or something, and then you cancel. I know there's a lot of you that will, sign up for Netflix or Disney or whatever. Whenever there's the new season of Mandalorian or Daredevil or whatever, you'll just be like, yeah, I'm gonna re-up this month, I'm gonna watch the show, and then I'm gonna cancel. So, I mean, those are all options. But I don't think we can justify it by saying, well, gaming's a luxury. So, you should only be doing this if you can afford it, and that's not the same as like having priorities over your hobbies. Yeah, and they're always doing like free month trials. There's always like games that you buy will have like a little sleeve inside sometimes. They'll be like, hey, here's 1 month of Game Pass, and you could just enter the code. Like, and there's even people that like go to GameStop where they still have the $19 Ultimate thing, and you can pay, buy so many of those, and some of you already have your Game Pass paid for until 2028. So most of you aren't going to boycott. You're just going to kind of chill with what you have, and then see where the prices are then, unless Xbox goes, and negates some things. I think that would be increasingly unpopular. But I think the other thing I want to talk about with Xbox is that with everything being an Xbox, with the ROG Ally portable being an Xbox, Steam Deck, your phone, they're losing brand identity. There's no reason to buy the console. I said this even as I bought the Xbox Series X. I bought it because I was like, hey, I love having an Xbox in my house. I love having physical copies, physical games. I could just as easily just have my PS5 and play most games that I want to play. There's very few games that are going to be Xbox only that I can't play. There's probably like no Xbox games that I couldn't play on PC. There's probably very few that might be console specific. I can't even think of one right now. So Xbox has that parity because they're Microsoft, and so therefore they kind of own PC and Xbox gaming. So they're kind of juggling both there. Granted, you have to play Xbox games through their app, not on Steam, but some of their games are also on Steam, so that's good too. And PlayStation's done the same. Some of their games are on Steam, which is good. But where we get here is that there's little value in buying their console with no exclusives. Back in the day, it was Forza, it was Gears of War, it was Halo. It was all these different games that were like built that brand identity. And Gears has been stagnant for a while. We're getting Gears of War E-Day, which is taking us back to when Dom and Marcus were much younger. This could be a home run. Could be an incredible game. Halo, very likely after Infinite, it's very likely that they're doing a full remake of Halo 1. That's kind of what it looks like based on concept art and stuff. They're doing Halo in Unreal Engine, which could either be a home run or it could just kind of be what it is. It could just be like, hey, yeah, we love Halo. Like, we'll play the original again. But when you're not making new Halo, you're in a weird spot. You're not growing the brand. With Forza, it's going pretty well. You have your Forza, on the track games coming out, alternating, and you have Forza Horizon, which is about to head to Japan in its next entry. You have Flight Simulator back in full flex, and you're doing yearly updates and entries and new titles and DLC, and that's going pretty well. So you have things going on there, but it's still not incentivizing. And now you're spreading your games everywhere, which is good. Like, I've had a bunch of PlayStation friends play Gears of War for the first time. I've been playing Gears of War for like 20 years. And some of these guys are just playing it now, and they're like, oh shit, this is cool. In the same way that I've had Xbox and PC only friends, start playing Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us because they finally came to PC. Death Stranding. Gosh, it slipped my mind. Just PlayStation exclusives, right? Yeah. So, so they've kind of messed up in that way because we've talked about this before. We've talked about it in terms of game developers where they say, the phrase is, a game that's made for everyone is a game for no one, right? And I don't always agree with that statement because gaming overall is for everyone, right? Like, there should be no exclusions. But when your brand is trying to be for everyone, you've lost your identity. It's great that your games are everywhere, but now there's no reason to be a part of the Xbox brand. There's no reason for loyalty. And people used to line up for Halo, Halo 2, Halo 3. They'd be screaming at the top of their lungs, chanting, Halo 2, Halo 2. And then, Xbox, blah, 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 just being like, I love the games that come out. I love that Xbox is kind of this new, like, edgy platform where, we have all these shooters and cool games. And, PlayStation is just your Japanese RPG platform. That's how it used to be. And Xbox was like your shooter platform. It was your mature, it was your teen rated games. And Nintendo was your E for everyone. It was your kid games, So you had like very clear divisions and brand identity. But now things have gotten more vague as things have spread, as acquisitions have happened, as things have changed, Yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn is another good one. Like, seeing that get to PC and other platforms, huge. It's bugging me. The game I was thinking of. Returnal from Housemark. Yeah, like seeing that get on PC. You know, As much as I think that exclusives are lame, yeah, Spider-Man even made its way to PC. And as much as I hate exclusivity, because I do agree gaming should be for everyone, and some of these games are so core to the experience. Like, I highly recommend everyone play The Last of Us, Spider-Man, Gears of War, Halo. Like, these are core experiences. Like I say, play Mario Brothers. Like, at least once in your life. Like, experience what it's like to play some of these games. Metal Gear Solid, Like, even that and Silent Hill used to be restricted. Some of those were PlayStation only games. Grand Theft Auto used to be a PlayStation only game. And gradually they ported copies to Nintendo and Xbox later on. So, I hate exclusives, but we still line up to buy them because Sony's entire business model is hardware and exclusives. And yeah, with timed exclusives, it created this weird thing where it was like I was excited to play Indiana Jones on Xbox or Tomb Raider on Xbox at one point. Rise of the Tomb Raider was exclusive to Xbox for a limited time, and then like a year later, it was like Sony got the better, more definitive version with all the DLC packaged in, and then I just felt like a dumbass. It was weird. It felt like, oh, well, now everyone can play it. And it shouldn't bug you because everyone getting to play a great game is awesome, no matter what your platform is. It was cool that Minecraft showed up on Nintendo and Skyrim and they got their own exclusive DLC skins and stuff. That was pretty neat. It is. So Xbox is having a big struggle, I believe, with brand identity, and it's something to do with exclusives, and it's something to do with the quality of their products. The fact that they've closed multiple studios that have had successful titles or something exciting in the works, canceling Scalebound, Perfect Dark, that literally Avengers died so that Perfect Dark could live and inevitably die, because the initiative did have Crystal Dynamics as a support studio helping them with Perfect Dark, and then the game just got ripped to shreds. Even State of Decay 3, that we've been waiting, like, when did State of Decay 2 drop? I really feel like it's going to be like 10 years ago or something. 2018. Okay, well, it's scarily close. 7 years is crazy. Because like State of Decay 3 has been in the works and teased with CG trailers and gameplay clips and things, and every year it just doesn't show up, and it just doesn't get a release date, and it just doesn't come out. So yeah. So they're in a weird spot, I would say. And, them doing what they're doing with Game Pass is not making the brand any bit more approachable. All right. So I think we've kind of ran to hell about Game Pass and Xbox. I don't know that there's too much more to say other than you will need to assess what the value is. And I don't see it. I think $30. I've listened to other, live streamers and content creators. I wanted to listen to what they were saying. I read the comments. I mean, comments are just mostly full of vitriol. Like, I'm canceling. I hate this. People jumping on the hate train, whether it's deserved or not. But another creator said that maybe this is just the ceiling. This is the highest the price can get. And we haven't seen him do a pivot. It's been 11 days, 10 days, because it was October 1st, I think, since they did that announcement. And they kind of just doubled down. They were just like, well, you know, it's just for Ultimate. Why are you mad? So, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll look at long-term financials, or maybe like Netflix, they were, raising the prices and they were prepared to take the hit, even with cracking down on password sharing and things like that, increasingly unpopular things. When Amazon introduced ads, despite having a guarantee that there would never be ads on Prime, and despite getting sued for adding ads. Maybe they're totally prepared to take the hit and just wait for a moment where it's like, oh, well, a bunch of people might resubscribe whenever Battlefield 6 and Call of Duty Black Ops 7 comes out. If we just fight through the negative press and make it to the other side, we'll be good. I don't know. We'll see. So next thing I want to talk about, and you can see this in the thumbnail, Ubisoft reportedly canceled an Assassin's Creed game set around Reconstruction, which takes place post-American Civil War. They cite that is because of the Yasuke backlash in Assassin's Creed Shadows, the fact that there was a real historical character who was a African black samurai, stirred up a lot of people, and boy, you can watch my Assassin's Creed Shadows live streams and playthrough of the game if you want to hear what people thought about me playing the game with the black samurai. Like, people's brains melting and racists in the chat, especially on TikTok. It was wild. So they cite that, but they also say that there's a lot of like instability in the U.S. They said our goal is, CEO Yves Guillemot said in September 2024 that our goal is not to push any specific agenda, simply to make games for fans and players that everyone can enjoy. Ubisoft has repeatedly insisted in the past that it does not make political video games, despite making the games that from a distance might have something to say, like Far Cry 5. So I'll say that Far Cry 5 didn't go far enough in how it could have been political or just critiqued modern society. Because without spoiling it, what is Far Cry 5 about? You're in Montana. There's these like far-right Christian militia groups that are, making drugs and rising up and causing problems. And it could have been a commentary about how the Christian movement, the Christian religion, has been hijacked by white nationalists and just Christian nationalism in general, and how that has been a negative effect on modern American society. And you could have been the character that comes in and is the hero and shuts down this ends up being kind of a cult, because there's a cult leader. But then it also gets into that there's like hallucinogenic poppy fields and stuff being grown, and then you're drugged multiple times during the game, and then it's kind of hinted at that like actually it's just everyone's on this drug, and so we can't really blame it all on like far right wing, Christian nationalist values, which I say that as a Catholic, but like I do see that the religion, the faith, is not beyond criticism. So Far Cry 5 could have like really delved into this, and you wouldn't have to go too far. But instead they played it safe. And it was basically a game about nothing. It was about just getting drugged and a cult taking advantage of people, which ironically is also ended up being a political statement on its own. But the difference is that they could blame it all on the drug. They could say, oh, well, it wasn't my personal values, or it wasn't that I had a lack of morals in being a part of this cult or falling for this guy's, fancy language. they're able to just write it off as like, well, I was high. So you can't blame me, right? So and like all art is political. Whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not. And not everything is meant to be like full on, like, not all media is meant to be like Democrats right, Republicans wrong. Like, there's some media out there where it's open to interpretation, or where they just, hey, it may be a political show, but it's like not really trying to say that like one side's wrong. It's just like, hey, this is us holding up a mirror to our society, and you can decide what's right, what's wrong. It's not always a blatant like us versus fascism. Where it's like there's a clear right and a clear wrong. There are some games where the lines are gray. So in getting back to this, this game was said to take place during Reconstruction, when and you play as an African American former slave who is fighting against members of the KKK. Now, this is not unusual for gaming. Mafia 3 had you play as an African American character during the 1960s in Louisiana, actually fighting Confederates that had their flags and members of the KKK. Red Dead Redemption 2 had the KKK burning crosses. There were still members fully dressed in their grays of the Confederacy in Red Dead Redemption 2 that would either try to rob you or kill you or be racist. And nobody had problems with it. It's interesting. Why is this all of a sudden controversial now? Do we not want to upset the modern KKK? Do we not want to? Are we kowtowing to Nazis right now? Are we standing down to people because they don't like African Americans? They don't like people of color? Should we do that? Now, at the end of the day, Ubisoft is a corporation. They want to make money. So they're loving the bigot dollars, I guess. They're loving the Nazi cash. I can't imagine there's that many people that are playing Red Dead Redemption that are KKK members that are like having a great time with it, or Mafia, or Assassin's Creed. And Assassin's Creed has always played with history, with the rights and wrongs of history. We've interacted with characters. We have taken place in historical events. We were there during the French Revolution in Paris. We were in the Renaissance in Italy. We were in the American Revolution, experiencing how Native Americans were treated, and how even the Americans were not fully the good guys during the Revolution. And how, as playing as this third character that's a Native American, this third party of, well, you have the Brits, you have the Americans, and then you have the natives that were being treated like shit by both sides. But obviously the natives probably saw a little more value in the Americans rather than tyrannical rule of a British king, So they just aligned in the places where they thought they could align. And that's why I also put up a image of Adewale from Assassin's Creed 4 Freedom Cry. Let me bring up the image here. Former slave. The DLC was literally about going to I believe it was like around Haiti and some of the islands in the Caribbean, and you were freeing slaves as a slave, as a former slave, and you're Edward Kenway's first mate on the ship. See if I have some more images here. Yeah, there's him with like the machete that you get in the Freedom Cry DLC, which I would argue is actually, in terms of like story, it's relatively short, but I think some of the combat, the animations, and stuff like that is actually even better than the main game, I would argue. So that's why I included some of these in the thumbnail. Like, literally, dude, they were not shying away. They were not kowtowing to the KKK or racist white Christian nationalists. Ubisoft had morals at one point. And they were like, hey, this is wrong. And, you know, they always say, there's always the disclaimer, hey, we're a development studio with multiculturals and values and different, you know, socioeconomic status, you know, that whole thing where they say, you know, hey, we're this, and this, you know, we're not trying to be weird or bad. But yeah, dude, the sleeveless look with the hood, and dude, just the design and the machete, and dude, the takedowns against the slave holders and capturers, these takedowns were not friendly. They were gritty, they were nasty, and I got a lot of joy out of putting these people into a lot of trouble. I don't want to get too graphic here, but I'm just going to say I had a really good time putting certain people in their place. How about that? So I think a game set during Reconstruction, that's probably the coolest Assassin's Creed idea I've heard in a decade or more. You know? Yeah, also Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation with Aveline du Grand Prix. She was a Creole woman and assassin who both, you know, participated in high society with her feminine dress and disguise, and then would just go put on the tricorner hat and the assassin outfit, the colonial outfit, and you know, on the other side of the coin, you know, fight the Templars and whatever. That was really good. That was back when Assassin's Creed was at its peak. I mean, you had the Ezio trilogy, you had, you know, this sort of era that takes place in the colonial type era here. The origins of America and the, you know, the Caribbean, and, you know, you got the French Revolution with Assassin's Creed Unity being just incredible. It was dope. So, I don't know. I just feel like, and to reply to the comment, it was way more compelling and had balls. I don't think Ubisoft has balls anymore. I think they're just trying to make games that are safe. And so, in a way, they're doing the thing. A game for everyone is a game for no one, right? You're trying to include the Nazis and the KKK. Ooh, we don't want to piss off any MAGA. Not every MAGA is a racist, but every racist happens to be MAGA. Just a weird coalition, okay? So I'm not saying if you're Republican or whatever that you're, you know, horrible, but it's like, why did all KKK members and their leader vote for Trump? Weird Venn diagram there that's practically a circle. I think if Ubisoft did that and sent a message and was just like, hey, we're gonna make a game that just like when Assassin's Creed 2 blew your freaking mind about how cool a game's story and how it could tie into real world history and science fiction and create this global conspiracy and chasing after artifacts, like, what if we did that again? What if we were just like, yeah, American Revolution, and then tie it into the modern day somehow? I'm not even going to sit here and do a long pitch because we're actually running over time here. I wanted to do some Warhammer tonight. I don't know. The boys haven't replied on anything about co-op. I know Andrew's out tonight. But yeah, I haven't seen any replies on if we're doing any co-op games, and I don't have Battlefield, so. All right. So we did play Destiny 2. We did play Edge of Fate recently, and I want to. Okay. And there's infinite ads on this site. I want to talk about Destiny 2 because players say Bungie's new progression system isn't fun and it's actively killing the game. So the portal system is supposed to be something. God, dude, the fucking ads, dude. Silent Hill F second playthrough, right? I mean, maybe. We're still mulling it over. The portal system, the way I understood it was like, hey, you can still open the map and go to wherever you want to go. If you want to travel to the moon and do a mission, or if you want to, I'm just gonna take this off screen. There's too many ads. If you want to travel to the moon and go do missions or go here, but now the portal was meant to be like a guide, because essentially on the screen you would have, okay, do you want to run the latest expansion? Do you want to go to the tower, the social space? Do you want to run solo? Do you want to play with a fire team? Do you want to do pinnacle ops, which is like stuff for like high value items and exotics and stuff? Or do you want to do the crucible, which is PvP? Like, what are you feeling? And you just pick those, and then from there it gives you like further options and helps you sort of go from there. So the way I understood it was that the portal was going to be an option, but actually that's where all of the end game loot is. So it says here, nerfs were rolled back, rewards buffed, and some of the more frustrating portal changes were reversed after player backlash, and I'll get into that a little bit. The upcoming Renegades expansion, which once again is the collaboration with Star Wars. We'll have Han Solo's DL-44 blaster. We'll have lightsabers of all different colors. So the Renegade expansion is skipping the previously planned seasonal power reset. So usually your power goes all the way back down, and then you grind for another season. And they just said, hey, we're not going to do that this time. So some players say that Destiny 2 is still fun as long as you don't play in the portal. But if you don't play in the portal, you're not getting the good like end game loot. You're not grinding to the maximal value here. And you're trying to hit 550 power, which I'm like sub 200 right now is where I am. But I've honestly fell off. I've become, from where I used to run 9 characters in Destiny on Xbox, PS4, PC, I ran 3 characters on every platform. We ran Nightfalls every week. Sometimes we'd play all day or a couple hours a day back in the day on Twitch and eventually YouTube. We used to play this a lot, but the sunsetting of weapons, the vaulting of content and campaigns and certain areas and expansions, that really pushed me away. And then the final shake came and gave us like the 10-year Avengers Endgame style ending to Destiny 2, and a lot of people just left. They were like, hey, I think this is a good time to leave. I got my fill. I still have a lot of nostalgia. I still have a lot of fun with the game, but there's also so many reasons to just turn away. Now, it is good that they actually did listen and respond to the backlash, because it's loud, and some people will argue, oh, the community is jaded, they're toxic, and I'll agree. There have been legitimately some times where the community's toxic, and a very small amount of popular streamers tend to either just tell the devs what they think. Sometimes they speak for the community, or at least their viewers, which is kind of the problem. You don't really get like an overall thing unless you're able to like poll the community within the game, because not everyone's online. Not everyone watches streamers and content creators. You know, some people just buy games and play them like crazy. I know. You know, so not everybody is eternally online here. So Bungie is working through player feedback, reverting the most criticized portal reward changes for the Ash and Iron update, which is very recent. Ash and Iron, that was September 9th. So that's our new season, and they introduced some changes there. Let me try to find the next comment I was at. They said working through player feedback, reverting solo ops power per grade reduction, and the engram reductions for Encore, Starcrossed, and Whisper were planned for update 9.1.0. Reassessing our announced rewards updates for the portal. And then if we look back here, controversial decisions with 2 major changes in Renegades after player backlash. So once again, Renegades is the upcoming thing. Originally, Bungie said when Renegades launches on December 2nd that seasonal power would reset back to 200. So those of you that are 550 power, you go back to 200. And for the next few months or however long seasons are now, they're gonna you grind it all again, which I find to be really boring. Unless you're eternally on the game and you just love the grind, you know, some of you can't wait to get to the top. But once you're there, there's really nothing to do. You start steamrolling content, and you're probably burned out because you've played so much to get to that point. And it's like, so do you really care? So seasonal power will not reset. Unstable cores, which were previously only for the season, will now carry over. A 300 power catch-up boost is coming next week, is what they've said. When was this article? This was October 6th. Okay, so it's coming very soon then. If that's coming next week, it could very well be Monday, Tuesday, something like that. So that would set you, you know, whereas I'm in the like 150 sub 200 range on power, because I've only been playing like once a week or every week or two, and I wish I could play more. The time that you have to invest, and I don't really have people playing anymore. I think we've had a couple people in the community jump in the stream and be like, hey, I'd like to pop in sometime. So, you know, maybe we are slowly building one, and I know I'm in a clan, but like none of them ever pop online or talk to me. I'm always kind of the they have like their set raid groups and strike teams that they have, and so I'm kind of the odd man out, where I'm, you know, like they'll play with me if there's no one else or if there's something to gain, and very rarely at that. And that was only for a short time. So I think that's part of the issue. And me and Andrew Alliance haven't played in a while, and I know he's like one of the only people I know that's like still playing Destiny. I think even Parris popped off, and Brittany jumped off, and I think a lot of us now are also on Destiny Rising, which I have pointed out is, you know, it's a gacha game. It's a lot of fun. It's a reset to the universe and your inventory, which the eternal problem with Destiny 2 is that I pretty much always have a maxed out inventory, so you're always having to try to play Tetris with your armor and weapons and deleting things in a game that's all about collecting things. So even if I just try to keep the stuff I like and the good stuff, there's just not enough room to do that. Yeah, it's difficult to balance. Like, you see, I'm trying to play Space Marine 2 every day, you know, and I'd like to hop on Rising for like a couple hours a day or less. I'd like to hop on Destiny 2 and do whatever dailies or weeklies I can do there. and then try to play whatever games on the schedule, like Metal Gear or Silent Hill, that's a lot. There's not enough hours in the day or the week. But I was trying to get to a point where it was like, hey, maybe we could all play Destiny on reset day, like Tuesdays afternoon, you know? As long as it's afternoon when the reset hits, we can check out what's new in the game and be the first to play it and report on it. Whether that's in the afternoon or in the evening, who cares? New stuff. Yeah, so I think that boost that would basically double my power in the game, bring me up to 300 so I could, have an easier time grinding to 550. I'd like to see that. I'd like to try that and see if that helps a little bit. Kind of curious how all that's going to go and what everyone thinks, but that's kind of the last bit I have here. I don't really have a whole lot left to talk about on the podcast today. But yeah, it's just there's, and even Dune Awakening has reasons to log back in and make sure your base isn't getting eaten up by sandstorms, and put batteries in, and there's new content to play there. There's Chapter 2, which I've been enjoying. New vehicle and stuff, so we definitely need to hop into that. We might try to do it tonight, but I put up Space Marine 2 as a placeholder stream, which we're a little late to getting around to, but I wanted to make sure that we talked about everything we needed to, and I was like, trying to keep the podcast under an hour, but I think we did a good job of like hitting all the things we needed to hit and not like unreasonably stretching things out. I think we talked about everything at just the level that we need to. And I appreciate you all chiming in and letting me know what you're thinking or how you feel about various things. I think we had a very constructive conversation. Like, whether you agree, whether you disagree, I just think when it comes to everything we talked about today, it's all about what's for you, what's best for you, what you enjoy the most, and what you feel like playing more than anything. That's where you determine what is of value to you in gaming. So, once again, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you watching on YouTube. Sign up for a membership. Get access to our members-only videos where we're looking at books, comics, video games, retro games. I'm sharing some exclusive, things. I think those have been really fun and like worthwhile for members beyond the emotes and the loyalty badges and stuff like that, as a way to just sort of give back and make sure that I'm providing value and it's not just smiley faces in the chat or whatever. And don't forget to check out the podcast. Of course, we always, we do these live and in video and sometimes pre-recorded on YouTube. And then, of course, we also have it in audio formats wherever you get your podcasts at. So this will be uploaded shortly. I always try to upload it either the same day or the next day, which in this case probably be next day, because it's getting late and we have a stream we want to pop up into, which will automatically redirect into. So once again, I want to thank you all for watching. This has been Shackcast episode 75. I'm excited. We've hit some milestones here, and we just need to keep it going and stay consistent. And I think with your support, that makes it so much easier. So thank you for watching. Take care. Be safe, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.